Yeah, so can you introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm working as a DevOps engineer, and we look at the CI/CD for the project. We basically are using Jenkins as our CI/CD tool, and we have all important jobs set up as pipelines. And I've been part of the team from the start. So I've also participated in the setup of the particular, different CI/CD pipelines. And for a basic run through of what we did, so we first set up we set up a simple build, deploy, and test pipeline. So the first one is getting the code from our Git repository, and then we would, as soon as the developer enters the code or commits the code to the Git, automatically the pipeline is triggered and the code is pulled into the build stage. And so we use Git as our we use Git repositories to make sure that to pull all the required files and this configuration files. So we once we get the required code from the Git repo, it basically we build it and we convert it into an executable format. We mostly deal with Java files. So we use either var or jar files. And then once the conversion is done, once we have converted it, basically we converted to Docker images, binary Docker images, and then we push it to an Artifactory. So what we do there is we basically write the particular configurations into a Docker file, and we push the Docker file into the Docker hub so that it basically is converted into an image. And once we have pushed it into the Docker hub, when required, basically in the next stage of the pipeline, we pull that particular image and we push it into an Artifactory. So here we push these particular Docker images from and are deployed into the Kubernetes cluster. And here we run we basically run JFrog, and as our we basically deploy it into JFrog. And once that is complete, we run some tests on it as well to check the validity of the particular Artifactory. And once these tests are done, so we have a separate team that does the testing. And once these tests are done, in case of any failure, we get back in touch with the testing team. We go through the pipelines, we go through the codes that have been that are there, and then we take care of whatever errors are there and we fix it up. And so that is basically an outline of what I've done in terms of Jenkins. Other than this, I also am looking at AWS. So we've seen a couple of we have created EC2 instances, VPCs, S3s, load balancers, auto scaling has been done, Route 53s have been created. And these are some of the aspects I used to handle when I was looking into AWS as well. And I've also dabbled a little bit in Terraform. So most of these AWS resources were, in fact, we use Terraform to create these resources, so that it is all automated and we don't have to go ahead and manually create it directly from AWS. And this is basically overview of what I do. And I also look into the releases during the projects. And so we do have frequent updates and frequent releases. So what we do during the time is I look into the different, in case there are any merge conflicts that come, I look into that. In case we have any new branches that need to be created, I look into that as well. And also if any branches require merging to the main branch, so we look into that as well. Of course, I do it with the help of my team too. So we all together collaborate and get this done. And that is basically a quick introduction of what I do.
Okay. Okay, it was pretty good. So, okay. So, can you tell me what is umask value for root user?
What is the
Umask value for root user?
umask value for the root user would be 666.
666. Are you sure? Like, what is umask?
4 plus the basically umask value is the default permission that is given to any file or folder that is created. So based on the so umask will have three values: R, W, and X. R stands for read, W stands for write, X stands for execute. Each value is given a particular number. 4 is so the value, okay, it's 777. Yeah, it is 777 because 4 minus 2, 2 minus 1. 4, 2, and 1 are the values that are given. So for RWX, you would say 4, 2, and 1, and then your umask value by default would be RWX for all for a root user because they would require, they would have access to everything, read, write, as well as execute. So your umask value for root user would be 777 and not 666.
Okay. Okay, so how can we check the open ports in Linux?
So we have, there is a command for checking open ports, TULNP. So TULNP is a command basically that is used to check which ports are open.
Okay. And what is swap memory?
Okay, so swap memory is, from what I remember, so whenever you are working on files, sometimes in case a particular file has errors or it suddenly shuts down when you are working, what happens is that a version of that file is saved. So when that particular version of the file would be saved in your swap memory. And when you try to work on that file again, you would see that certain different versions of the file are available. So that is what is swap memory. So I have not come across this instance too many times, but yes, when I was working on some basic Linux commands, I got this particular message stating, this particular file already exists in a swap memory.
Okay. So are you using Docker?
Yes, we use Docker as our containerization tool.
Okay, so how much you'll rate yourself in Docker?
So I would rate myself a 3.5 out of 5 in Docker.
Okay. So can you tell me like any reason or some reason, few reasons to use multi-stage build?
So
Templates.
the biggest benefit of a multi-stage build is that it will shorten the runtimes of the files as well as the amount of resources that are being used. So when you look at Docker multi-stage builds, what happens is you would be using multiple from commands, and you would be copying data from the previous. So whatever configurations needed to be completed in the previous Docker cycle will be used in the next layer, so or the next stage. So one example, if you are just looking at the simple build, a simple build build multi-stage. So what you would do is first you would use from Git, then you can use the Git checkout, run Git checkout with the repository link, and then you would use let's say from Maven, and then you would copy the files that were files we took out from the Git in the previous stage, and copy it in for the current stage, and you would run the Maven clean install, and then again you would basically use another from command for your Artifactory, and then you would deploy it. You would use Maven deploy deploy it into the Artifactory. So so you would be using multiple copy commands and multiple from commands in your Docker multi-stage build. And the biggest advantage of a Docker multi-stage build is that you would be able to, the resource utilization would be very low, and the chances of any errors happening is also very low, because you would be taking existing files from the previous stage and then you would be using it currently. So there is no requirement of creating new files every time you want to run a different stage. So I would say that is one of the biggest advantages of Docker multi-stage.
Okay. So can you tell me like a few use case of init container in Kubernetes?
Few use cases of init containers. So init containers are similar to basically they are used before your actual pod is run. And so this is basically used as a check in order to make sure there are no errors. So init containers you can generally run basically for any kind of checks that you want to give before a particular pod is run. So that way what happens is you would not any errors would be quickly found out before it goes into the actual pod and the actual the main pod starts running. So that is one of the biggest advantages of init container. The init container is always executed before your main pod.
Okay, so any proper use case, do you know?
Use cases for init containers
Which you have used?
As such, right now, off the top of my head, I cannot seem to remember. But I do know the fact that init containers are generally used as checks. They would are used to run checks on that particular pod.
Okay. So how to set up database in AWS? Can you explain me that?
As in how to set up an RDS?
Yes, you can explain.
Okay. So, so first thing is basically you would need to sign in as admin, ideally speaking, and then you would very first thing is you would need to sign in with your AWS account as an admin, and then after that you would need to go to your console, and then you would need to basically go to the RDS console, and then you would need to create a particular DB instance. So you would be asked to choose the type, would be asked to choose the type, and then so you have different options to choose from. Basically, like your SQLs, Aurora SQLs, and Aurora and SQL. So these are the common ones that are used. And then once you have selected the particular option, then you would need to basically then you need to see what other you would come across multiple options, and then you would need to select it accordingly. And then you would of course have to set up a login credentials as well. Then once all of this is been set up, you would need to select what is the particular database that you want. And once you've selected the database, you would basically just tap on create create database, and it will create.
Okay. Okay. So do you know how to create zip file in Linux, zip folders?
GIF or JIF?
Zip folder.
Zip. So first we would need to download the particular zip software, and if you're using Red Hat, you can use yum install zip, and or you can, if you are using Ubuntu or CentOS, you can use apt-get for zip. And then you would once you've downloaded it, you would have the zip command available. You can just use the zip command and whatever is the file name, and you can zip that particular. So you would need to use zip command. Uh, file, yeah, you would need to use the zip command and file name, and then you would be able to zip the file automatically.
Okay. So, what is Ansible role?
Sorry, could you repeat that? What is
Ansible role. Ansible role.
ROLE?
Yes, Ansible role.
So Ansible roles are uh, basically, so Ansibles run on different playbooks. So whenever you're using Ansible, you would be running it through playbooks. So in order to make things easier, your playbook will be divided into different roles. So now suppose you are running multiple programs and you would want to reuse just a part of the playbook in a different program. So having it divided into roles is makes things sorry having it divided into roles makes things convenient when you're running different multiple programs. And if there are specific files, not the entire playbook, but you want only certain sections of the playbook. So that is how you would be dividing your playbook. Those divisions are called as roles.
So, can you tell me the folder structure of role, or where we will create role in Ansible?
You would be this I'm not sure of. I'll have to check this out about the folder structure.
Okay. So, can you explain master and slave concept in Jenkins?
So Jenkins master and slave. So basically, what you would do for Jenkins is basically when you are the advantage of running a master and slave is you can the master server would be just to run and execute commands, so there won't be any errors or anything located in that, and then you would generally run your commands in the particular slaves. So what you would do in those cases is and the biggest advantage, in fact, for master slave is you would be able to now suppose you have one master and then you have multiple slaves, you can handle a higher amount of traffic that is coming in. And now suppose you want to, so let's say generally most organizations will never run just one particular project or one particular build. They would be running multiple builds or projects simultaneously. So instead of having one separate Jenkins servers for all of them, instead of that, you could have just one master server, and then you would have multiple slaves with whatever required programs installed in those slaves. So let's say one requires Kubernetes, one requires Docker, one requires Ansible. So different kinds of environments are there. So you would this will master slave concept will help you run those particular jobs. So you can, and the biggest advantage is when you're running a pipelines, you'll be able to specify which particular slave that you want. So you have a command called as the agent command in your Jenkins pipeline. So when you're setting it up, you can just suppose I want to run, let's say I have 3 slaves, A, B, and C. I want to run something in slave A. I can just use agent label as A, and then I automatically whatever next stages that I'm running will be running A. So that is an advantage. So while I am doing that, my colleague or somebody from a different project can also use the same Jenkins server to run a pipeline on slave B, so that the projects are running smoothly and there is no hindrance, and our sprints are always on time.
Okay. So, can you tell me like how to automate three-tier structure using Terraform? Like, can you explain something about that?
How to automate 3-tier structure?
Yeah, using Terraform.
I'm not too sure about that. I will need to.
Okay. So let's say one instance is running and it is, I have created it manually on the AWS console. Okay. And now I
Okay.
want to provision it through Terraform. So what steps I need to do to get it under Terraform?
So you have the there is a Terraform command that would help you do that. So you would basically set up a null resource, and so if it is an already existing instance, you would set up a null resource in order to run
Do you know about,
add a Terraform provision.
sorry to interrupt you, do you know about
Yeah.
Terraform import? What is Terraform import?
Yes, I've heard of it. I mean, I've not used that particular command as such, but yes, I've heard of Terraform import.
Okay.
So
So,
basically, I'm guessing this is the command that you would be using now. Suppose I want to, so in my existing AWS, I want to import a particular resource. I would be using the Terraform import command for that.
what is load balancer and the round robin method?
Load balancer and
Round robin, round robin
round
method.
robin method. Is it similar to how blue-green distribution works? Uh,
Any idea like?
so I'm guessing it basically it will keep sending the requests across different. So now let's say you have multiple servers. So I know what I know what round robin is. It basically you would just send multiple requests across the, so now normally you would just send, let's say you have so many requests, you would generally send it to one particular server, but then here you would send it to each server and each individual server.
Okay.
So once you have done that, uh, so it will basically follow that particular order. So you would have you would have servers arranged in a particular fashion, whether it be by the way you've created it, or based on creation date, or you would have your own custom arrangement, and the whatever incoming requests are there, that would automatically be sent to each of the servers. So normally you would send it to just one. So round robin, what it does is it will send it to server one first. Once whatever configurations need to be done is complete, it will send the same request to server 2, server 3, server 4, and so on. And then it will go back to the first.
Okay. So what is target group and what are listeners?
What is?
Target group and what are listeners in load balancer?
So your target group would be so when you are setting up so when we were setting up an application load balancer in AWS. So what we did was we did set up a particular target group, and how that works is the target group will be what you would create, or what would be the resource that you are load balancing over. So now suppose you want to load balance multiple instances, your instances would be added to that particular target group. And listeners, if I'm not wrong, are the ports that are available, and the ports. So in order for any particular resource to have in order for any particular resource to interact with the internet or accept and send requests online, it would have to work through ports, because generally we would be using containerization. So you would have your home server, and you would be working with containers on top of that. So you would need to access any outside data or incoming requests through different ports. So your listeners would be basically the ports that you would set up for that particular access.
Okay. Okay. So, okay. Can you write one shell script by sharing your screen? like
Hmm.
the input should be ABC. Okay, the input should take ABC, and along with that, I will provide one more number also. Okay, and I have to add this both. Let's say if I'm providing one number 10, okay, and ABC means A1, B2, and C3. So total 3. So you have to count that like letters. The 3 plus 10 should be 30. So answer should come 30. Okay. Input will be like ABC and one more input 10. Okay. Two inputs I will give together and answer should be 30.
So first you would basically enter one input, which is ABC. Then you would be entering. So each character would be taken as one value, and anytime you enter a number, it would take the value of the full number. Is that?
Yes, yes. So for 3 characters, total number is 3, ABC 3, and we are providing one int value also, right? 10. So we have to take sum of that. So sum should be 13. Okay, like that. So 2 argument will be there. One will be string, one will be int. Okay.
Okay.
Got it, right?
Yes. So this is a little. Okay. So
I've
first.
sent in chat, you can see that.
Yeah, ABC 10 is the output. Okay.
These two will be input and output should be 30.
Okay. So let's. I'll just try this. I'm not too sure if this will work. Can you enable screen sharing, please?
What?
You have to enable screen sharing. If I have to share my screen.
Oh, that's okay. Or if you want, you can write and send it to me. Like, or
okay, I will just quickly do that. So, I mean, with any shell script which runs on bash shell, the first one would be hashtag exclamation slash bin slash bash, and then so first input would be a and b, right? So echo and first input. Then you would read. Then you would read, let's say, text because A and B is still counted. Okay, so A and B means it should count. Okay, got it. So you would enter the first part, you would enter it always together, right? So let's say I want to enter A, B, C.
Yes.
You would enter it as A, B, C, D. You would not enter A and wait, enter B.
No. Only ABC.
Okay.
Or
so then,
yeah.
Got it.
If I'm entering India, means INDIA, India, total 5 characters are there, right? So 5 plus 10.
Got it.
15, like that.
Count equals so count equals, so then we need to basically check the number of words. The number of words will give you the same number. So we would use count would be 4. Which is dollars. This will basically give the whatever is written, and then we pipe it to word count the number of letters is characters is C. Okay, so that will basically give me a number here. So word count C, that count will be there. Okay, so then first is the next you would ask for number, right?
No problem. You can explain the logic.
Enter number. Yeah. I think I'm done. Read number, read num, sum is equal to count plus num. Right, so once we do sum is equal to count plus num, and then echo sum is sum. The logic would be something like this.
Okay.
Paste. So bin bash echo enter the first input, read input. So it'll read the string of characters. So now consider I don't have to since no letter is assigned any particular value, I would just need to count the number of characters that are there in that particular word. So I would just basically use echo hyphen n input. So this output itself would be the number of that full letter, and then I would look into word count. So when that happens, this count value will basically get initialized with the total number of letters that are characters that are there in that particular word. And once that is done, you would enter the particular number, then you would use sum. Sum is basically nothing but you would sum the count and the number, and then you would echo the sum. This would be the logic for the shell script.
Okay. So can you explain me, like, let's say we have one service in one, like two namespaces are there, okay, A and B, or else namespace dev and namespace test is there, okay, in Kubernetes.
Dev and test, okay.
Yeah. And a service is there in namespace dev, and it want to access the service in namespace test. So how we can do that?
So I want to access one particular. So when there is, so you can, since namespaces are basically isolated. So if I want to access, so you want to access a file.
File or any Kubernetes component which is namespace object. Okay. So it wants to access from one namespace to another namespace. So is there any way to access?
I'm guessing maybe we can just change the namespace which is allocated to that file and then access it, but then that will be roundabout. I'm sure there is one way. I'm sure there is a way to access it for sure, because you would there. I mean, there would be so many use cases where you would need files from different namespaces. Maybe you would. What can you do? So there is one namespace.
Okay, no problem. That's okay. So it was nice talking to you. Thank you so much for joining.
Yes, thank you so much.